Matthias is an ugly orphan who used to be the most powerful sage in his past life. He reached the limit of his power and could grow no further, so he decided to be reborn in order to become stronger, only to end up being born as a weak, ugly orphan with the weakest crest of all. At the age of 12, he embarks on a journey to the capital city to take an exam, and as he talks with the ugly man who tries to imply that his crest is too weak for him to succeed, Matthias suddenly senses that a monster is approaching them, but the old man laughs it off. A huge monster appears, shocking the man as he pees in his pants. However, Matthias suddenly isekais the f***ing monster in 2 seconds. On getting to the capital city, he walks past a swordsmith's shop and overhears a girl complaining that she needs the swordsmith to make a magic sword for her friend for the upcoming exam, but the swordsmith tells her it can't be made. So the jobless little idiot decides to poke his nose and enters the shop. The swordsmith tells the ugly girl that the sword would have to be enchanted, and it won't be easy to make. However, Matthias interrupts and says he can handle the enchantment, but when the swordsmith sees he has the 4th crest, which is the crest of failure, he ridicules him. Meanwhile, the lady chooses to trust him and gives the swordsmith a magic stone to make a sword so Matthias can then handle the enchantment. A few moments later, while they wait for the sword to be made, the ugly girl introduces herself as Alma, and soon her friend Blurry joins them, which Matthias finds very attractive. But because he is a bottom G, he flops while introducing himself. However, Blurry quickly likes him too and reveals she has never developed plot with any guy in her life, shocking him. The frustrated swordsmith soon arrives with the sword, and Matthias takes it so he can enchant it, which everyone thinks would take a long time. He surprisingly finishes quickly and hands it over to Luri to test it, and while she casually strikes the table, it splits into 2, shocking her. The swordsmith wonders how he did it in such a short time without even reciting an incantation. The next day, the 3 meet one another at the practical skills exam, and Luri is called to fight with an examiner. She defeats the examiner very quickly with the help of the sword Matthias made her. Upon reaching Matthias' turn, Guile, the captain of the Knight's Order, offers to fight him, saying he heard it was him who made Luri's sword, and then promises to make sure he passes the exam if he can defeat him. Matthias takes up the challenge and soon beats the arrogant knight, shocking everyone. They move on to the casting exam, and Luri is called to cast her fire arrow spell to hit some targets using her crest of glory. She does this successfully, and on reaching Matthias' turn, who is already doomed to fail due to his crest of failure, he begins to cast his spell without reciting an incantation, shocking everyone, and as he makes his hit, he destroys the exam ground while also hitting the targets. He is called to the headmaster's office, scaring him as he wonders if it's because he destroyed the training grounds earlier. However, on reaching his office, the headmaster tells him he wants him to teach the students of the 2nd Academy how to use the wordless spells as opposed to the incanted spells they are mandated to use by the 1st Royal Academy. He also says he wants to prove that wordless spells are better in the next inter-academy competition, and Matthias agrees to this. He begins teaching them the next day, and all the students quickly get it, except the idiot called Luri, whom he happens to be crushing on. He then transfers some magic to her, and she finally gets it done too. A month later, during the inter-academy competition, Matthias walks to the arena, and 3 ugly dickheads mock him for his crest of failure. Matthias suddenly recognizes that one of the guys, named Devilis, is a demon who's just using a disguise spell to hide his true form so he can walk among humans. Matthias soon knocks out the other 2 idiots in a single cast, leaving only Devilis standing. Upon seeing this, Devilis immediately activates a spell while trying to fake an incantation so he won't be caught. Matthias charges at him, aiming for his head, but Devilis quickly evades his attack and summons a fire spell. They both engage in a heated exchange, leaving Devilis to wonder how a human can be that strong. Matthias suddenly activates his spell Shatter and strikes him, immediately neutralizing his disguise spell and turning him into a demon. Everyone becomes shocked, and upon realizing that his cover has been blown, and that Matthias is too strong for him, he immediately tries to flee, but Matthias quickly moves before he can fly off, and makes a brutal strike that sends him to Nirvana, shocking everyone. After that, the headmaster takes Matthias to the palace to see the king, and while Matthias wonders what the big deal is, the headmaster tells him that no one in history has ever single-handedly dispatched a demon. Upon meeting the king thinks of how to reward him for his feat, and while the king offers useless reward options, Matthias requests rights to all resources found in the kingdom's dungeons, since dungeons are a kingdom's greatest asset. But this is unknown to this world, due to the fact that magical knowledge has waned in this day and age. Then, the king begins to talk about the 4 magical chosen ones who have all suddenly vanished. He explains that magical chosen ones first began to appear several hundred years ago, which would mean that demons have been infiltrating the kingdom for centuries. The king concludes that since the magical ones have all gone, this means that Matthias has driven the demons away from the kingdom. However, Matthias tells the king that this is unlikely, saying the demons must have gone to muster their forces and lay waste to the kingdom. He further speculates that this would take the demons about 3 months to do, which is enough time for them to prepare. He then suggests that they need to cover the whole kingdom in a permanent barrier using divine class artifacts. And he adds that if all the students of the Second Academy work together, it'd take them a month. Upon hearing his wisdom, the king entrusts the kingdom's protection into his hands and appoints him as the leader of the fight against the demons. Following this, Matthias is taken to the palace's treasury to select anything he would need for creating the barrier. And while he checks around, he suddenly sees a sword, which the underage guard with him says was found in an ancient ruin, but no one knows how to use it. However, he recognizes that this was the magic sword he made in his previous life and immediately takes it, thinking that it'd be perfect for the barrier's core due to its toughness. He also finds a pendant, a magic accessory he made in this past life, which vastly increases the gains granted by experience points. Matthias later meets Luria and Alma, and tells them that he is heading to a dungeon to collect the materials needed for the barrier creation, surprising them. Then he realizes he needs a party to go to the dungeon, so he asks them to come along with him. On reaching the dungeon, he quickly goes to capture a monster for them to practice with, and after teaching Alma some new tricks, she leaves to capture some other monsters. After Alma leaves, Luria and Matthias walk around the dungeon looking for a sus place for plot development. He begins to teach her how to make powerful weapons with her magic. And while she practices this, Alma returns and is shocked. They head for the 10th floor, and on their way, they meet a couple of monsters, which Alma and Luria work together to destroy while Matthias watches them. A killer dog, a more powerful monster, suddenly appears, which makes the 2 girls scared as it dodges their attacks and attempts to attack them. Matthias wonders if he should save them, but before he can make a move, the girls manage to isekai the monster. Matthias commends their effort and tells them to rest while he goes to the lower floors to get the adamantine needed for the barrier. However, before he leaves, he infuses his magic into a magistone and creates a barrier to protect them. He heads to the lower floors and begins to gather the rocks he needs. He suddenly senses a glow from a large hole and suspects that there's a more powerful monster there known as the floor boss. He charges into the hole and destroys the surrounding monsters immediately. He then uses Compelled Attack to attract the floor boss, the Arc Serpent. The monster soon curls around him and swallows him up, but on getting to its belly, he casts a spell immediately, causing an explosion and thus escaping. He casts another spell and charges at the monster, but it makes no effect. And then he finally unleashes his trump card by shattering a magistone, which produces a thick veil of magic power and particles. He gathers these into his blade before landing a devastating strike, annihilating the monster. After a while, he returns to the girls, having filled up his treasury, and they leave the dungeon for the Adventurers Guild to sell some items. When returning from selling off the items, Matthias suddenly senses a magical aura and tells his side chicks they need to return to the Second Academy immediately as 2 demons are heading for the academy. He tells them that one of the 2 demons is weak while the other is stronger than Devilis, so he instructs them to handle the weaker one and buy time while he faces the stronger one. Meanwhile, as the talkative demons engage in unnecessary discussion, Matthias suddenly attacks one of them, but he blocks his attack. Then the stronger demon, named Ashril, casts a fire spell and attacks Matthias, but he quickly takes control of it and deflects it back at the demon. The demons are surprised and lunge at him, but Ashril unexpectedly gets hit by Alma's arrow, which is enchanted with a spell to disrupt his magic power and slow him down. The demons split up, and Ashril engages in a heated battle with Matthias, but Matthias skillfully dodges his attacks and lands a hit on his back. Ashril then tries to cast another spell, but it gets repelled by Matthias' sphere control spells, shocking him as he wonders what kind of a beast Matthias is. Ashril plots a spell trap for him, and he almost falls for it, but he manages to dodge it too, surprising the inexperienced demon. Ashril cowardly tries to flee but immediately gets electrocuted by Matthias' occlusion orb and falls to the ground. Then Ashril tries to cast a demon-exclusive spell, but Matthias shockingly outsmarts him again and defeats him. Matthias then goes off to face the other weakling playing hide and seek with the two girls, thinking he's fighting. He activates the Light of Death spell, and the demon tries to flee. But Alma quickly fires an arrow that breaks off his wing before Matthias finally isekais him. They head to the palace, and the king commends them for their efforts. However, Matthias immediately senses a demon spying on them with a spell and exposes him, destroying his surveillance. Due to this, Matthias tells the king he now knows the hideout of the demons and suggests that they should pay them a visit. However, it's too far from the palace and would take about a year to get there. So Matthias takes Alma and Luri to meet Iris, the darkness dragon, which he defeated in his past life. He approaches Iris to negotiate, but not recognizing him, the dragon tries to fire an attack. However, Matthias dispels it easily, shocking him. Upon realizing that Matthias is Gaius' reincarnation, Iris quickly apologizes and pleads for his life. Matthias tells him he needs him to fly them to a place to hunt demons, but Iris sadly reveals that his wings have been damaged. Matthias casts a spell that repairs them, and they soon embark on their journey. On reaching the demon's hideout, Matthias makes a grand entrance by sending a demon guard into Nirvana in any instant. They all head into the abandoned building, and Matthias activates the telepathy spell to secretly communicate with the girls. On getting to a room, they don't find any demons, so Matthias realizes that the demons must be using the concealment spell. He casts the disruption spell, revealing the demon's location, and Alma quickly positions her bow to fire an attack. But the stupid demon takes a pose instead, not realizing that his cover has been blown. He is shocked when Alma fires an arrow, and it hits him. The demon doubts that this is not the real Matthias, saying he is an imposter, as he would have died already if it was really him. He begins to attack the imposter Matthias, and Alma continues shooting the arrows at him. After a while, he suddenly begins to feel the effect of the arrows as he becomes sluggish. He wonders how, and Matthias tells him that the arrows are enchanted with magitoxin, which causes a demon's internal magical power to agglutinate. The demon soon starts to lose its balance. However, he resorts to using his trump card, Disfortune, a spell that makes a demon grow bigger and stronger, but ultimately dies. The gullible demon attempts to attack Alma and Lurid as they try to escape, but he shockingly realizes that he was fooled by a disguise spell. He tries to attack again, but Alma gladly fires her plot arrow, sending the f***ing demon to hell. Following this, Matthias tells the two girls to go and get ready for him in the sky with Iris, while he quickly goes off to smash the next demon before coming back to smash them too. Matthias immediately shatters 3 Magistones to neutralize the other demon's missed state, thus blowing his cover. They both begin to fight, and after a series of heated exchanges, the demon activates a spell that instantly tears off Matthias' arm. And when he thinks that he has won, Matthias suddenly rejoins his arm, shocking him. The demon continues to attack in panic, but Matthias dodges all, having analyzed the nature of his magic with the analysis spell. Matthias lands a hit, cutting the demon with the magitoxin. Then the demon activates his trump card, Magic Circuit Overclock, a spell similar to the one the previous demon used, but far more advanced. Matthias instantly nullifies this spell, shocking him. Then he activates another spell that turns anything it touches into mist, and Matthias nullifies it again. The magitoxin soon begins to have its effect on the demon, and Matthias shatters a final piece of Magistone, which turns the demon wild and isekais him, leaving a dragon vein pillar behind, known to have the capacity to summon a horde of dungeon-class monsters. While on their way back, Iris asks Matthias what he would do after dropping them off, and Matthias, thinking about this, suggests that he transforms into a human and joins them at the academy. Iris casts a spell that turns him into an ugly little girl standing naked before them, giving the little pervert a 4K view of her miniature plot. Following that, he introduces her to the headmaster, asking him to take her in as a transfer student. The headmaster says she would have to also take the test, to which Mathia agrees, but he says he'd like to watch her take the test, fearing that she might destroy the whole academy if not monitored. As they leave the headmaster's office, Matthias casts a spell that puts a fake crest on Iris' hand so she can perfectly blend in as a human. During the practical exam, she faces Guile in a duel, the idiot who fought Matthias in the beginning, and shows him he is just a piece of trash, and at the spellcasting session, she incurs more damage for the school, following the footsteps of her mentor Matthias. The preparation for the barrier creation continues, and Matthias asks the headmaster about it, but he replies that it's not been going smoothly due to the shortage of students with the Crests of Glory. He adds that most students who have the Crests of Glory are enrolled at the First Academy, and Matthias tells him that they could ask the First Academy for assistance. However, this would be difficult as the First and Second Academies are not in unity. They both visit the miserable and ugly principal of the First Academy to tell him that the king orders that the First Academy works with them in building the barrier. But the arrogant idiot continues debating how superior his academy is to the Second Academy. The headmaster mentions that the Second Academy has proved itself in the previous inter-school competition, but the principal insists that the results of the match were negated due to demonic interference. Matthias then suggests that they redo the competition, in which the loser will do whatever the winner asks. The principal agrees to this, but gives the condition that Matthias must not represent the Second Academy. The next day, the First Academy brings all their students to fight against just 5 mere students of the Second Academy. And as soon as the fight begins, the 5 students make an absolute mess of the First Academy students using wordless magic. However, the principal of the First Academy doesn't accept and says Iris, thinking that she's weak, should fight instead, but Iris soon grabs a sword and bends it with her hand, terrifying the principal. The headmaster suddenly points out that the principal has refused to obey the king by still keeping to the usage of incanted spells as opposed to the wordless spell the king ordered. The king appears and orders his arrest immediately before joining the First Academy to work together with the Second. Following that, Matthias takes his girls to a dungeon in search of a bigger magistone, and to get this, they must attract monsters. A few moments later, they all begin to combat angry killer dogs, and while Alaman and Luri skillfully combat the monsters, Iris effortlessly proves her stupidity by making empty, misdirected attacks due to her lack of control of her powers as a human. After getting a moderately bigger magistone, Luri forms a casting circle around it, and Iris is told to slowly infuse it with magic. But she proves she's an idiot for the 100th time, summoning a terrible dragon that begins to chase her. Luri enchants some arrows, and Alma shoots them at the dragon, but it does no damage. So Matthias starts to plant magistones around in enchanted circles. The dragon notices the 2 girls shooting arrows at him and immediately attempts to attack them, but Iris protects them by landing a fatal blow. Iris soon wonders why the dragon hasn't used dragon breath, and Matthias replies that he is using his magic to block it. Now that his preparations are set, he tells Iris to get the dragon to use its dragon breath. She insults the dragon, and he immediately tries to use dragon breath. But Matthias activates a spell that inverts the breath's direction, causing the dragon to destroy himself, thus producing a large magistone. Following that, Matthias decides to train Iris, so she can get the hang of her human body and stop embarrassing them. And while Alma practices with her, Matthias takes Luri to a sus place to develop plot. He teaches her new plot styles, with which she makes new plot weapons for advanced plot development. After this, the process of creating the barrier quickly progresses. And as Matthias handles some tasks, the girls come reporting that the magic detectors picked up some unusual activity, which Matthias deems a demonic transportation spell called Magirode. He says his hands are full and tells them to take care of it instead, shocking them. However, after some motivational quotes from Matthias, the girls believe in themselves and head to the location of the activity immediately. Upon reaching there, they see a large portal open in the sky, and Luri immediately makes some arrows with the magistone Matthias gave her. An unlucky demon suddenly appears at that time, and Alma isekais him in an instant. Another one appears, and Luri isekais him in a single slash, closing the portal. They suddenly feel a big magic surge and return to the capital immediately. Matthias tells them that he already anticipated, saying it's a more advanced Magirode, and he predicts that the demons will likely appear above the Second Academy. But since it will still take some time to fully activate the barrier, he tells the girls to go buy him some time. They head out immediately, and a Magirode soon appears in the sky over the academy, from which a powerful demon appears. The students of the Second Academy gather to fight the demon, and as the demon sees them, he underestimates them. He then fires a massive attack at them, thinking this would isekai them at once, but becomes shocked when he realizes the students block his attack. Meanwhile, while the students buy her time, Luri tries to make a casting circle to produce a weapon capable of killing the demon, but fails multiple times. However, she eventually succeeds in making a special arrow, which Alma fires at the demon, weakening him before the students isekai him with a combined attack at him. Several other stronger demons appear immediately, and while the students try to hold off till Matthias is done, he suddenly appears in the sky and relieves them of the burden of living. After this, he activates the barrier all over the capital, and the students head outside the confines of the barrier to protect the surrounding towns. A horde of monsters suddenly starts to approach, and the students manage to defeat them while Matthias and his girls watch the show. A second wave of even stronger monsters appears, and Matthias steps in with his girls to face them. Suddenly, a Void Eater appears and grows bigger as it devours the monsters around. Matthias immediately gives Luri a pattern to carve into a Magistone and tells her to throw it at the Void Eater. She does this, and Matthias does the same, making the Void Eater grow even bigger until it materializes into a very large monster. He tells the girls to shoot arrows at the monster as usual while he faces it head-on in combat, which is the best advantage of the Crest of Failure. As he fights the monster, he enchants his sword with Magistones at intervals, and then creates multiple casting circles in the sky with which he deals great damage to the monster, before dealing a final blow, killing it. After this, Matthias meets the headmaster and tells him he is leaving the capital as he'd like to survey dragon veins, so the headmaster offers to give him a special scholarship. He also offers his side chicks the same, and they all leave the capital as they set out on their new adventure. Luri talks about a city built over the dungeon, shocking Matthias, who never knew there was such a thing as it never occurred in his past life. It would take several days to reach Melkia, but they choose to follow a faster route, through the forest of Chikirasubia, which is renowned for its dangerous and smart monsters, so that they can arrive that night, and after a long journey, they eventually reach their destination by sunset. However, on entering the city, they realize the city is bleak, unlike what they expected of it. They soon see a strange magic lamppost, which Matthias believes is connected to a dragon beam. Suddenly, an ugly man warns them to stay off the lamppost as it explodes every now and then and has caused the death of 10 people this year. Just as the man says this, the magic lamppost confirms he is not lying by exploding. They wonder why they have such a dangerous thing, and the man reveals that it's the city lord's orders. He happens to be a very wicked man who often sends adventurers to die at the dungeon. So, Matthias and the girls head to the guild to get a permit to scour the dungeon, but the lady tells them that the permits are only granted by the lord and warns them against going to the dungeon, which is a very dangerous place. A lady suddenly appears requesting who knows how to cast healing spells, as there are a huge number of injuries from a monster attack. Matthias offers to help, and on reaching the infirmary, he is shocked at the number of the injured adventurers. He immediately analyzes the patients with his magic sense to get an idea of their status and organizes them according to the severity of their injuries. As he attempts to start healing from the worst, a miserable priest arrives to stop him, saying the place is not a playground for kids. However, he is shocked when the supposed kid completely heals a severely injured patient of his injuries. They then work together to heal all the patients. Following that, Matthias discusses the city lord with the priest, and he has a hunch that he might be a demon, so he plans to meet him to find out. He writes a secret letter about it to the headmaster, and the next day, they set out for the dungeon, from which they later return with the treasures they obtained from killing monsters. The guild receptionist is shocked that they could defeat the monsters in the dungeon, and Matthias tells her that it was the girls' doing. She writes a letter about their feat to get the Lord's approval for their payment, also reporting that Matthias is only a healer while his girls are beasts. Upon getting the letter, the Lord is amused to discover such a strong party. Meanwhile, as Matthias and his girls return from a restaurant, he suddenly discovers that they are being tailed and thinks that they must be the Lord's men. So he changes his route and decides to trick them into an alley. A few moments later, he and the girls activate the concealment spell, shocking the stupid men. They reappear, and one of them restrains Matthias as he pretends to be weak. Matthias instructs Iris to teach them how not to be an idiot, and she immediately gets to the lesson. After forcing them to take a nap, Matthias casts a demon tracking spell on them so he can be alerted anytime they meet a demon. The next day, Matthias receives a reply from the king, and they immediately leave to meet the royal proxy named Eek at a certain location. Eek delivers the king's decree to arrest the city lord, and they immediately head to the lord's estate, thanks to the tracking spell Matthias put on those idiots. Upon reaching there, they discover that there are no guards outside guarding the estate, and Matthias immediately activates a spell to scan the magic signatures inside. He realizes that the lord has tightened his defense. Eek, beta male, suggests that they return immediately, but Matthias declares that they are going in right through the front gate. As they enter, the enemies attack immediately, but Luri quickly activates a barrier to protect them. Then, Matthias finishes them off in one single strike. Matthias soon finds a secret door, and they head to the basement where the Lord is staying. Meanwhile, the Lord realizes that the noise outside has gone silent, and thinks that his men have defeated the little kids, but the ugly, gloomy Fatso becomes shocked when Matthias suddenly enters. He wonders how he got in and suddenly orders his men to attack, but Matthias displaces them like flies, shocking the ugly Lord, who thinks he is the weakest of the party. Ek delivers the king's decree, and while the Fatso tries to disobey, Matthias activates a spell that causes him to sleep. He then tries to find out how they already anticipated their raid and discovers a magical letter, causing him to know that a demon is involved. He suggests that the demons must be after the dragon vein in the dungeon, which is far bigger than the one in the capital and could cause a worldwide calamity if infused with a spell. An earthquake suddenly occurs, and Matthias perceives that the demons have already started tampering with Dragon Bean, which has spawned a monster horde heading toward Melkia. They quickly head to the dungeon to keep the demons away from the Dragon Vein before the monster horde arrives at the city. Matthias tells Luri to handle the Dragon Vein while he goes to fight the demon involved. On meeting the demon, he realizes that another boss is ordering him. Using a communication spell, Matthias launches an attack but gets repelled by the demon's barrier, causing him to realize that the demon is using tactics designed to fight a Crest of failure. He reasons that the boss ordering the demon must be a force to reckon with, and he wonders who it might be. After a series of attacks, Matthias manages to break through the demon's barrier, shocking him as he wonders if he is Gaius' reincarnation, but also doubts it anyway. The demon activates Disfortune and goes wild, but this only causes his misfortune, as Matthias skillfully dodges all his attacks and isekais him in an instant. Matthias then tries to find the location of the boss ordering him, but the demon boss suddenly tells him that he cannot find him. However, Matthias promises to find him and tells him to prepare for their fight. Meanwhile, the horde of monsters approaching the city starts to disappear, and the city is saved. Following that, Matthias tells his friends he recorded the demon boss' magic signature in a magistone and reveals there's a device that can help him trace the demon. Luri and Alma tell them that they've never heard of the device, and Matthias almost reveals that he created it thousands of years ago. He further tells them that the device is in a location called Rinia Alliance, but to get there, they'd need the permission of the king to cross the border. So the next day, they return to the capital and are shocked to discover that the second academy is undergoing a massive renovation. Matthias meets the headmaster and tells him about their plan to cross the border over to Rinia Alliance, which would require that they get permission from the king. The headmaster helps them with this and later returns with the documents needed. They begin their journey to the Rinia Alliance, but on getting close, Matthias realizes there's a problem. The location where the device they need is highly restricted from commoners and is only allowed to be accessed by A-rank adventurers above, which means they'd have to take the test to become A-rank adventurers. They head to the Adventurers Guild immediately to apply for the test, which involves fighting a particular proctor. A sturdy guy named Giluis, an S-ranked adventurer, soon arrives as the proctor, and the guildmaster starts to fear for Matthias and his party as Giluis is a very strong opponent they don't want to face. However, they go to the battleground, and on reaching there, the three girls get the plot privilege from the cultured bastard, passing the test immediately without even fighting, but unluckily for Matthias, he's gotten a plot. Giluis challenges him to a fight, having heard a lot about this heroic demon slayer. As the mock fight begins, Giluis states that he doesn't use magic but welcomes Matthias to use it if he wants anyway. He charges at Matthias and lands an attack, but he blocks it, and he immediately realizes that Giluis is using a spell unconsciously. They engage in a series of exchanges, and Matthias is impressed by his combat skills. He realizes that Giluis' magic power is growing stronger based on his incredible instincts. Giluis suddenly jumps in midair and pulls an incredible move that surprises Matthias before landing a strike, but Matthias manages to deflect it, and then he charges at him in full strength, thus defeating in one strike. This surprises Giluis since he has never been beaten by anyone before, and he asks Matthias how he can be stronger. Matthias summons a textbook he authored and gives it to him, but Giluis says this was why he dropped out of college. Following that, as they plan to leave for their destination, Giluis tells them about the recent occurrences around the area, which have led to many parties going missing. Upon reaching the checkpoint of the city, they are given some tags and allowed to pass, which seems unusual. Matthias discovers that the tags have been inscribed with demon codings instructing their death, and while they assess this, he spots some dumbass laying an ambush for them from afar. So Matthias and Iris distract them while Luri and Alma go behind them and cast the sleeping spell, which puts them to sleep. However, Luri and Alma are not left out either. On reaching Folia, they sense magical signatures scattered all around the city, and Matthias tells them they are demi-demons, offsets of the demon race, which are in control of the whole city. To avoid themselves from being seen, he takes the girls through a secret door, which is a hidden passage for the demons. This leads to a basement, and while they pass through, Matthias' detection spell picks up that a demon is nearby. So he passes through a wall behind the stupid demon and casts the stupefaction spell, which temporarily dulls his senses. Then they walk past the stupefied demon. On getting out, they notice the people of the city walking like zombies, and Matthias discovers that the demons are using the thought paralysis spell to control the people. So he activates a nullification spell to prevent themselves from being affected too, while they also pretend to be affected in order to avoid being suspected. They soon reach a refinery where the demons are producing a large number of magic crystals, which can be used in explosives, capable of wiping out an entire kingdom. With all these, Matthias wonders if there's a powerful demon with extensive knowledge of magical technology backing it. So they decide to wipe out the demons to halt the progress of the facility, and also save the people from the effects of the thought paralysis. A few moments later, a massive magical signature breaks out within the city, and the demons, ordered by their leader, thoughtlessly get into action like idiots to get rid of it. But the reverse happens as Matthias and his girls begin to get rid of them one by one, leaving them in a confusion of what's happening. This was Matthias' strategy. When they first arrived at the city, Matthias had masked Iris' tremendous magical signature, so he unmasked it all at once, which caused the sudden magical surge and called the attention of the idiots who then gathered around it. However, this was just a decoy to lure them into Matthias' trap, as they began to isekai them one by one. The demon leader soon discovers that there are two different magical signatures on one of the dead bodies, making him realize that someone is hiding out there and attacking them. They quickly gather and strategize how to isekai the enemy, but Giluis suddenly appears and isekais one of the demons. The demon leader attacks him immediately, but he blocks it, and the other demons soon gather around him. Matthias is surprised to see him and quickly isekais two more demons, leaving only 4 left. 3 of them attempt to attack Matthias, but Iris intercepts and gives them a free ride to Nirvana. Giluis engages in a fierce battle with the demon leader, and upon observing Giluis' enhanced physique skills, Matthias realizes that he has actually been reading his book. After a series of strike exchanges, Giluis isekais the demon leader and falls to the ground in exhaustion. However, a few moments later, the demon suddenly regains consciousness and lunges toward the girls, but Matthias quickly blocks his attack. Then the demon suddenly speaks, telling him to get prepared for the day he will destroy the seal and revive completely before fading off. Matthias thinks that this must have been the same boss who was controlling the demon at Melkia. Giluis calls for help as he bleeds and Matthias quickly goes to heal his wounds. The silly guide only stands up to declare his new position as the new leader of Folia City. Following that, Matthias and his side chicks head to the location of the device, and on getting there, they come across a pyramid. Matthias quickly accesses it by infusing some magic into the pyramid, exciting the gullible girls who consider him smart, but are rather too dumb to suspect that Matthias knows way too much stuff for a 12-year-old. On getting inside, Matthias locates the device and places a machine part he obtained from the refinery in Folia on it, saying it helped track down the person who gave the refining tech to the demi-demons. The data suddenly loads up, and it confirms that it's really the same demon boss that controlled the demon back in the Melkia dungeon. He then places the Magistone he used in recording the demon boss' magical signature, and the information pops up, revealing the image of an ugly demon. Matthias is shocked as he discovers it's Zardus, and that his seal is on the verge of being lifted. The ladies ask him if he can put the seal back, but he replies that the demon is a strong opponent that they cannot currently match against, and would have to train for hundreds of years to manage to defeat him, which, by that time, humanity would have almost gone into extinction. As they think about how tragic this would be, Iris accidentally uses her little brain for the first time in this anime, which sparks up a brilliant idea in Matthias as she talks about finding powerful weapons in the ruins. Matthias suddenly takes the weapon in her hand, which they found in that location, and places it on the device to find other weapons around the world with similar magical signatures to those in the ruins. As he does this, he hopes he will find the powerful magical sword he made in his past life. However, fortunately, he locates the sword as the system reveals that it's in the royal treasury. They head back, and as they approach the capital city, they suddenly detect a strong magical signature and realize that Zardus has lifted the seal and is currently heading toward them. So Matthias tells Luri and Almat to bust into the royal treasury to get the magical weapon while he tries to hold Zardus off until they return. The two girls immediately leave for the royal treasury, and Matthias prepares to attack Zardus as he tries to open the portal into the world. A large tear occurs in the sky, and Matthias immediately attacks before Zardus can come in, but he fails to stop him. Iris then unleashes her dragon breath on Matthias' order, but Zardus resists it, and they begin an intense exchange. Meanwhile, Luri and Alma are restricted from entering the royal treasure, and they prepare to bust their way in. The king arrives just in time and permits them. Matthias realizes that he is getting weak, and that Luri and Alma might take more time before bringing the weapon, so he prepares to give his life in order to win the fight. At the same time, on entering the royal treasury, Luri and Alma use the magistones Matthias gave to them to locate the magical sword and immediately head out to get it to him. Meanwhile, the fierce battle between Matthias and Zardus continues, with Matthias fighting with all his strength to protect the demon from destroying the capital city's barrier. Zardus tells him that he can't stop the demons that are already within the capital city, suddenly making Matthias self-aware that he is stupid, realizing that Zardus can resurrect the dead demons within the capital. A demon suddenly crosses the two talkative girls, and they are surprised, wondering how he entered the city. The demon Dishril boldly declares he won't waste the new life, but the idiot is sent back to Hades just 5 fucking seconds later. Ashril also appears, holding two students as hostages, and tells them to hand over the weapon to save the students. The girls surrender the weapon immediately, however, as Ashril attempts to take the weapon. He gets interrupted by the headmaster and the other academy students. They soon restrain the fucking idiot, and the girls continue their journey to Matthias. Meanwhile, Matthias, now weak, considers giving up and using his remaining life and magic power to activate the reincarnation spell, so he can get reborn in another life, where he better plan how to kill Zardus. However, he immediately reconsiders this when he remembers he hasn't developed plot with his side chicks, and he continues fighting for this one cause. Alma and Luri soon reach the scene and throw the weapon at him, but as he grabs it, Zardus suddenly stabs him from behind, causing him to fall from the sky. However, the magical sword gets activated, reviving him and making him extremely stronger and faster, shocking Zardus, who wonders how a human is capable of such. Matthias reveals himself as the strongest sage with the weakest Crest and Isekai's Zardus immediately. After this, they are rewarded by the king for their service to the kingdom. Next, Guile comes with a report that there was an attack in the Seal Empire by 300 wooden puppets, and upon analyzing a sample of the puppets, Matthias shockingly discovers that it is powered by human life energy, which means that the puppets are powered by stealing small amounts of life energy from a lot of humans at once. This suggests that demons are in control of the Seal Empire, and Guile officially requests Matthias' help one more time. What is Matthias' next move? Are there still stronger demons than Zardus? Let us know if you want part 2 by commenting Matthias in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. See you guys in the next video.